you're not on the field, court or ice, you're on the couch. From DG to DC, this is Coaching from the Couch with your host, C. Wall, delivering coverage for all DC sports teams from the hometown perspective. Nats, Skins, Mystics, DC United, Washington Wizards, Caps, Bowie State.
My name's C-Wall, I'm a PG girl. Down for my skins, I don't know if you heard. If you like watching sports, then I am your girl. Sit down on the couch if you not on the field. Cold on the ice, pick any sport that you want. Know that I cover it tight. What would you like? From baseball to football and more. The list can go on the whole night. Big shouts out to my HBCU fam. Never forget who I am through the wins and the losses, the highs and the lows. We gotta stay strong, so I stay 10 toes. Make the competition back. The way I kick it, make them mad, man. See all that we live and direct. Sit back on the couch and relax. Come on.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Coaching from the Couch. This is your Washington Commanders update, and I am your host, C-Wall, checking in as I do each and every single week to give you the latest and greatest information on the Washington Commanders. Happy holidays, everyone. I hope everyone has had a great holiday season. Drop in the chat some of your most favorite gifts and everything that you've received so far this year. We're coming up on 2023. Can you believe it? And I see Damon checked in. I see that Cameron Mingo checked in. And of course, you all have to actually, Mama Waller, y'all wanna know something? Mama Waller is actually up in C-Wall Studios this week. She's in C-Wall Studios. She is in town and she's able to witness her child do the show live. So everyone say hello to Mama Waller. You know, if Mama Waller is watching, then you know Pops Waller is somewhere watching as well. As a reminder, you all, this is a live Bowie television recording. Everything we do and say here will be on the Tizu, Verizon Fios Channel 11 and Comcast Xfinity Channel 77 each and every single day from 1:30 to 2:30 if you are in the Washington metropolitan area. So you all, I'm still going to say, have you shared this show with your Washington Commanders loving family and friends? You want to absolutely tag them in. You want to absolutely share the show because we got a lot to discuss. Christmas Eve was a lot for Commanders fans, was it not? It was a lot. It was a lot for Commanders fans. So tag your folks in, share it to your favorite Commanders groups so that we can get folks going and start talking immediately about the Washington Commanders' loss to the San Francisco 49ers. So let's go ahead and get into it. We have to play this game today. And that is, what's your one word? What's your one word to describe how you are feeling after the Commanders lost to the San Francisco 49ers? Go ahead and drop your one word so we can see that. That was tough. Let's just go ahead and say what it was. It was tough. I know for me, this was not a game, even at the beginning of the season, that I necessarily had circled and said, this is a win. That was one of the that was not it. And I see the comments coming in of the one words. I see Damon said he's humbled. Cameron Mingo jumped in with 2 words and saying not out. I see C-Ball Chaplain. Mazdak has jumped in the conversation. Tag in your Washington Commanders family and friends to see if they have any conversations or any thoughts on what their one word was. But this was not a game that I didn't have it circled as a for sure win for the Commanders. We talked about this last week. We said, hey, the 49ers are playing incredible football. They are well coached. They have an extremely smart coaching staff led by Kyle Shanahan. And this was not a for certain win. I didn't have it as a win at all, regardless of what the Commanders were doing. I paid attention to what the San Francisco 49ers were doing. And if you all know the historical background of Kyle Shanahan's relationship with the franchise and organization overall, from his time, he and his father's time in Ashburn, then you know as well that beating the Washington franchise is something that Kyle Shanahan takes very personally, and it's something that he loves to do. So, with that being said, we knew that this was going to be a challenge. It was going to be a challenge for the team, and also coming off the loss to the Giants. We knew that this was a morale thing at play potentially, and that it was going to be tough. So we're going to talk a bit about the loss. You all feel free to drop in the chat some of the questions and comments that you've had. If you have jumped into the conversation, make sure you are hitting that love button, because we're going to have to love talking about the Commanders, because we're going to have to love it. I see Melvin Russ McCrae's message and comment about both Kyle and Trent. That's absolutely correct. It's always so interesting knowing that this is how I learn a little bit more about people and athletes overall. Many of the people that folks have an issue with or had an issue with are no longer even with the organization. I mean, we all know the one constant common denominator that's still a part of the organization. But it doesn't matter. They see burgundy and gold and they just want to beat it. So, and they did. And yeah, so with that being said, before we get into all the things that went wrong, does anybody have anything they'd like to share about what went right? Drop in the chat what you think went really well for the Commanders, if anything, or if there was a particular player that made you smile and said, you know what, this has got to be, this is a great thing. I'll start, and we have this here. Jahan Dotson. Oh, Jahan Dotson. Oh, Jahan Dotson. Can we say it again? Look, man, whoo. You know, and I'm not sure if I pulled it from Twitter to share with you all, but it was abundantly clear to me that the 49ers defensive line, first of all, let's just be clear. The 49ers defensive line is a championship defense, period. That they are and have been. They didn't just look like that on Saturday. That's who they've been. So everyone knows that the Commanders have had success with the run. If there was ever going to be a week that they were not going to have success with the run, it was going to be against the San Francisco 49ers. They were just not going to let Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson, Jonathan Williams, and whoever else run all up over their field. They weren't going to do that. That wasn't going to happen. And that was already something that I know was in the back of my mind, and we discussed this on the show last Thursday, that was going to be a challenge for the Commanders. It was going to be a challenge. It was going to be hard. And Rick Doc Walker, he tweeted it, and then I quote tweeted it, and it was, they're going to make the quarterback beat him in the air. They're going to make you do it, because the thing about it is, you're not going to run all up and through here. Not to mention, we're going to get to the offensive line in a minute. We're going to get to it, because we're talking about positive stuff right now. But you all said Chase Young is back. He is. He is. Damon, you mentioned Dotson as well. So did Russ in terms of the wide receivers. Hey, those are track stars. I was on the track team, and they are just, hey, they are impressive, and I really enjoy watching them play for certain. That was kind of my positive. You know, it's great that Chase was back. PFF had him score, his score as the highest, I think, of the defense. Of course, Deron Payne had his moment, which was prompted by, we talk a lot about how they use the teaming approach. Montez was the one that was able to get the pressure. Deron was the one who got the sack early on in the game. And then, again, we still supposed to be talking about positive stuff. So we'll get to the point about George Kittle just running all over the field, like, just free, free. So we'll get to that in a moment. But I already see some comments coming in to talk about all the things that went wrong. We shouldn't have been surprised. That's what I was saying. We should not have been that surprised. I'm going to tell you, and I want you all to drop in the chat, what was the turning point in the game for you? What was the moment in the game that you said to yourself, the 49ers going to win this game? And so, yeah, I mentioned it. So while you're dropping that in the chat, I want to acknowledge Eric's comment. And yeah, a few other the Commanders players, they typically have that. And Chase is mentioned because Chase has been out for 13 months and still had the highest score of the defense, which was very interesting to me. So that's why we wanted to mention Chase being back, because everyone was low expectations, temper your expectations, and of all people, he gets the highest score of the defense on Saturday. So that was interesting for a few reasons that actually concerned me, to be honest with you. I see Cameron Mingo, the entire second half was your moment. The George Kittle touchdown. I'm going to tell you the moment I said to myself, the 49ers are going to win this football game. It was when the decision was made to go for it on 4th and 1, when they were still in Commanders territory. That was the moment I said, oh, Ron, you have just shown these people that you are panicking. I knew then. I said, Ron is panicked. He's panicked. Now he's scared. Something done tipped him off and he got scared. And it showed with that decision. And of course they didn't convert it, which was, even more like, okay. That moment, I said, Ron has shown his emotion in making that decision. That was an emotional decision he was making. We all knew that the Commanders wanted to win this game so bad. They wanted to win. Listen, we're going to get to this in a moment because I have some other stuff that I want to share. But being around this team and being in the building, that is how I knew he's panicking. He panicked. And that's what he had to do. He felt like he had to do it and he had to make a move then versus punting. And it's like, well, what are you doing wrong? Right here. And how easily the 49ers were able to convert. At that moment, I said, oh, they got you now. You just showed them that they have you. And of course, they had him, and in terms of him being too aggressive, that was him panicking. You have now shown that you're nervous because there was no reason to even do that. It was no reason to do that at all. You are being aggressive in a moment that you don't have to. And that is how I ended up detecting that's panic. That's not even aggressive. You're now, you've gotten anxious. You got to do something and you got to do it now. No, you don't. Chill out. Relax. Be smart. He made an emotional decision rooted in panic. And that's what I knew. Kyle Shanahan about to have a field day now. And that's what he did. That's exactly what happened. I've been saying for weeks, the Commanders needed to beat the Giants. I was not accepting a tie. I wasn't accepting none of it. They needed to beat them. Period. End of conversation. You never want to be in a situation where you have to depend on someone else to lose in order for you to get in. What is now in jeopardy? Because if you're looking around the league, some of these teams are getting better. There's no shoe-in that the Commanders are going to lose to Cleveland. There's no shoe-in that they're going to lose to the Cowboys. Now they got to fight for their position. And that's never a situation you want to be in. Never. And the Commanders have found themselves in that position. You also never want to be in a position where people call your bluff. So there was all this momentum, all this talk about the defense, all this talk about all the things going right and everything going well. And you're showing your hand that you're really not as good as everybody thought you were. That's a problem. That's an issue. The Commanders are now going into the last 2 weeks of the season with their backs completely against the wall. You have 4 Pro Bowlers and 2 alternates, 6 total, that have now, you could be sitting at home watching this whole thing go down playoff time. What is it all for? What's the point? And so I sat there when Ron did that, and I said, because that's what I was paying attention to. I told you all last week. I want to know who outsmarts who. That's what I want to see. And once I saw him do that, I said, Kyle Shanahan got you now, brother. This is going to be a long rest of the day for y'all. And it was. That's what it was going to come down to, because Kyle Shanahan is so smart. He's a freaking genius. If you really pay attention, I watched the 49ers because I knew that was actually is a team that I like because they're so good. His play designs are like perfect. And I'm closing my eyes because I'm like, this man is so smart. It's almost like he gets in the mind of, like, it's like he uses his intellect of things that he knows about the other coaches, and he proactively understands exactly how they're going to use their players and exactly what they're going to do. So he's going to just outsmart you each and every time. Who doesn't know that George Kittle should be covered? Nobody knows that. How did that happen? How did we get here? Simply because he's smarter than you. He's going to put him in positions where he's just going to beat you because he's an amazing player. But that man was just flying free all day on Saturday. They never recovered. And I'm like, it's exactly this. Situational. I can pay attention to what you are doing in the moment, and I can adjust my very next play based on what you just did. You don't see halftime adjustments with a Kyle Shanahan-led coaching staff. He's going to switch up on you in play. The Commanders don't have anybody on their coaching staff that can do that. Think they're great people. But in terms of that level of expertise, that type of smart intellect, that's not what's happening over there. No, that ain't what's happening at all. That's not what's happening at all. Let's go back to Chase Young for a minute. So at first it was 10 to 12 snaps for Chase. Then it was 12 to 16, whatever the case may be. He ended up doing like 30 snaps. He said he was feeling good, said he was feeling great. Again, the fact that his PFF score was the highest of the defense, considering he had been out for 13 months, that is tremendous. But to me, that's also concerning, because I would have just thought that the team as a collective would have been better than that, at least on the defensive front. Now, I want to go back to the comment about the defense missing some key pieces. The only real key piece they're missing is Cameron Curl. They missed Cameron Curl for certain on Saturday, but there were some things that transpired that Cameron Curl wouldn't have. They missed him, yes, but he couldn't have helped that, to be quite frank with you, at all. So I was like, hey, it was Great to see Chase out there. Everyone knows that Chase, his energy, his presence, and he just loves the game of football. It was nice and it was amazing to have him out there. But the defense absolutely allowing the 49ers to score 30 plus, that's not necessarily what you want to see from a defense that you know is top tier and it's got a Pro Bowl starter and 2 alternates. It's not what you want to see ever on a game like that. If ever there was going to be a game where they were going to play out of their out of their minds, it should have been on Saturday. That offense and their offensive line was not afraid of that defense at all. They're not scary. And that's what you want to see. You want to see scared play. You want to see them say, we're afraid of you. I told you all this last week talking about the Giants. The Giants, a 4th and 9, they don't respect you. They're letting everybody know that they don't respect you. And you're not that scary. You got to pay attention to things like that so that people, you know where you are, so that you can start being really, really scary and people don't play with you like that. But scoring over 30 points for any defense isn't a sign of an excellent defense, even if you are missing key pieces. So that was something that I know for a fact I was disappointed about and wanted to see them more. Again, I didn't have it circled as a win, but hey, I want you to show up today. And I want them to know that you got to respect them. You got to respect us for 4 quarters. You ain't getting through here too many times. A George Kittle touchdown, 1, okay, fine. Somebody called the young man with the 71-yarder, baby Deebo Samuel. I mean, I don't even know how that happened, but it came from a tremendous Christian McCaffrey block. That's where it came from, which leads me to what offenses do that Commanders offense isn't so good at. My colleague Sam Fourier from the Washington Post posted this on Twitter. I thought this was exactly one of the areas where I know I had an issue. Offensive line with their penalties. I mean, they would, and listen, I have something else up here. We're gonna get to Nick Bosa in a moment. But these penalties, you all have heard me gripe about penalties early on in the season. It was driving me absolutely crazy. Then it slacked up. But those also are the things that make me wonder, did you get nervous? What is going on? I'm like, what? How did this happen? These are the moments. This is something that you know you don't want your offensive line to fold on a day like today. So this is an issue. We can talk about Taylor Heineke, Carson Wentz switch all day long. But if the offensive line isn't going to hold up, if they're going to make crazy, unnecessary penalties, no one can be successful like that under center. They just cannot be. This is something that needs to be addressed for certain in the offseason. Something. And also immediately coming up to the Browns and then closing out the regular season with the Dallas Cowboys, almost at the 49ers. And so that was troubling. This was something I wanted to make sure was mentioned because it was absolutely disturbing to me to see them make that many mistakes, counting out these excellent plays made by the offense. But now your offensive line is your Achilles heel and not making sure that these things are able to be fully executed on the field. I had to post this because Taylor took a shot. Carson ended up taking a shot too, once he got in the game. But listen, no one can deal with getting decked all day long by Nick Bosa. Nobody can deal with that. Nobody should deal with that. And I'm like, this is, and everybody knows Nick Bosa is just out of this world play. But nobody can be effective when this man is on you like this all game long. That was a problem that also leads into overall offensive line issues. It was there. Not that they weren't going to win. I didn't think they were going to win the game anyway. But some of the things that they needed to do well in all regard, the coaching staff let themselves down. The offense definitely let themselves down. And the defense got a hand in that too, because you can't be scoring 30 plus, but we can't be doing that. You got to be hitting on most cylinders if you want to be and be looked at as a playoff contender. You got to be scary. You want people to say, oh, I don't know. You got to be able to scare people. People don't think that's real, but it's the truth. You got to be able to scare people. And they weren't scary. It was nothing that they did that made me say, oh, it's not scary. I guess we do have to address what? Carson Wentz and Taylor Heinicke. And here's the reality. As soon as the team wasn't winning anymore with Taylor, they were going to pull him, period. They were going to pull him. As long as they were still winning with Taylor, he was going to stay under center. I brought up last week, and I believe it was Eric Jessup that said what was so important about what Ron said in his presser when, maybe it was Sam 48 that asked Ron, I can't remember who it was, asked Ron, what would he like to see Taylor do? And he said, as soon as he gets the ball, he needs to plant his feet and throw the football. That's what he said. And I believe it was Eric Jessup that said, well, what is so important about that? I said, it's very important because he just told you exactly what he wants Taylor to do. At that moment, listen to Ron. He ain't making it about the O-line. He ain't making it about nobody else. He's looking at what Taylor does. If Taylor doesn't do that, regardless of the context that the line has collapsed, regardless of the context, if no one is open or not, Ron has just shown his card again. And I shared that on the show last week because I wanted you all to hear it coming from his mouth. Because the moment Taylor didn't do it, and it resulted in turnovers, he was getting pulled. He was going to get pulled for facts on top of facts. Ron's been basically saying it in the press conferences all week long. And I'm like, he just told you, everybody, be looking. If Taylor's holding the ball too long, if he feels like he gonna pull him. So it's so much said in words. Ron is he's in the way I communicate. He gives his answer all the time. He tells you all the time. And he told it then. And he told it again after the press conference then, on Saturday. Carson's going to get the ball out fast. Taylor doesn't. That's it. Aside from the fact that Ron told you after the Chicago Bears game, when he got all emotional up there, that he was the effing guy that brought Carson in there. It was him. Carson is Ron's guy. We talked about that too. Not surprised that the change was made. As long as the team was winning, Taylor could stay. Soon as they started losing, he was out. There's that. So listen, y'all. The Commanders have to now win. They are now in a situation where they must win these last two games because they have not effectively solidified their position in the playoffs comfortably where nobody can get them. So they have to win out now. The last two, they have to win out. Remains to be seen what happens, you all. We are at our time for the show this evening. You all listen. Happy holidays again. And I guess when I see you all, it will be, if you join the show on Thursday, we're still going to do a Thursday show. So I'll see you then to talk through all DMV sports. And we're going to spend a lot of time on the Commanders as we do during football season to really talk a bit more through this situation with the Hogs, because we got to talk about that. And we also want to talk through Commanders versus Cleveland Browns. Okay. So listen, you all, continue to enjoy the holiday season and stay safe. I'll be talking to you guys again soon.
You're not on the field, court, or ice. You're on the couch. From PG to DC, this is Coaching from the Couch with your host, C. Wall. Delivering coverage for all DC sports teams from the hometown perspective. Nats, Skins, Mystics, DC United, Washington Wizards, Caps, Bowie State.
My name's C-Wall, I'm a PG girl. Down for my skins, I don't know if you heard. If you like watching sports, then I am your girl. Sit down on the couch if you not on the field. Cold on the ice, pick any sport that you want. Know that I cover it tight. What would you like? From baseball to football and more. The list can go on the whole night. Big shouts out to my HBCU fam. Never forget who I am through the wins and the losses, the highs and the lows. We gotta stay strong, so I stay 10 toes. Make the competition back. The way I kick it, make them mad, man. See all that we live and direct. Sit back on the couch and relax. Come on.